Well, hello, mathematics students, writers of mathematics, and seekers of truth. In this video, I am going to give you a brief overview of some skills and some tips you can use in order to format your pictures and your diagrams in a technical essay. This sort of work takes a little bit of time. It takes some effort to really put into it in order to make your document to have good layout and to make sure that it's just the whole experience of reading it is more pleasant. So here I have an example of a paper. It was a pretty good paper, very well written, lots of good details, and it's even got some good pictures and some diagrams here. But first, if you look at this page, although very well presented in the text, and it's got some pictures here, and it's got some references back and forth, table 1 and figure 2 and so on. It's the layout is a little bit clunky, and I know working with mathematical equations in Google Docs can be a bit of a challenge, and so this is how we would clean it up. So I'm going to leave the original work as it is, and I'm going to show you how I would go about cleaning this up. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm just going to use it on my new page here. So the first page and the second page are the same thing. The text is exactly the same thing. It starts with the words instantaneous rate of change. It ends with concave up to. Same thing with this page, starts with instantaneous rate of change, ends up with concave up to. So a good place to usually put your table and graph would be in between two paragraphs, so that it's not just interrupting text in the middle of the same paragraph. And if I paste this here, you see why this problem occurs is when you first put a picture in, a drawing in, it just kind of plops in wherever it makes sense. So the first thing we can do with that, if you click on this, if we look at the 3 menu bar, looking at all image options, and we want to go under where it says text wrapping, and you see that it says wrap text, which means that the text is going to push up against the picture as far as it can. The best way to resolve that is to use something called break text, which means that we're going to have the graph on its own line. It's going to take up more space, more paper, but we're not really printing a lot, so not a big deal. Okay, so this is the first thing that we can do with this. The second thing that you can do with this is to try and center the image. It's sort of on the left here, and we don't like white spaces. White spaces, they just make the paper look empty and everything looks kind of out of alignment. And so this is how we're gonna start by centering the paper or the image. Okay, so I could do this on the side here. I'll show you in the middle here. It's a little bit easier to see. Instead of saying move with text, we're going to look at fixed position on page, and then we're going to look at different positions that we can choose. So you could put in a specific X value and a specific Y value. I like to just go with this middle option here. That just puts the image in the middle of the page. There are some others you can choose from, but you got to be really careful with this because you see it usually doesn't fit very well if you choose one of the other ones, unless you're very well versed in this. I wouldn't mess with it too much. Just put it kind of in the middle of the page. You can see the text right here, the choices right here. Okay, so now I've got this centered. It looks a little bit better, but you see there's a lot of white text on the left side, a lot of white text on the right side. I don't really like doing that, so I'm going to double click on the drawing. And a common error that people make is they take a look at the picture and they just go, oh, let's just stretch this out like this, and you save it. And that's not really great either. It's you see that the letters here on the axis -2, 2. You can see clearly that stuff has been stretched. So that's not a really great way to do it. What I like to do is actually go back to where the where the image was even created in the first place, most of the time students are creating this in Desmos. So I've already typed up this graph here, these functions here, f prime and f double prime, and you can see them appear here. And then what I'd like to show you is how to kind of work with Desmos to give it the most presentable option possible. And if you look on the far right, there's this little wrench, the graph setting. You see here that most of the detail happens between x equals -4 and x equals 3. So I'm going to do that. And you see that I get a better zoom in of all the details. The y values, I think they are okay the way that it is right now. The y window is pretty okay. I might stretch this over here a little bit. I can use the setting here so Desmos, it turns on, it makes the print a little bit darker, a little bit easier to see. Now the only problem that I don't like about this is that the grid line seems too busy, so I'll take away the minor grid lines. You can tweak with that a little bit. Yeah, get rid of the minor. In fact, I'm going to get rid of the major grid lines as well. And then one other thing that I might do is over here on the left side, we can edit this list and maybe make the lines a little bit darker. So it's currently at 2.5, maybe we'll go 4. You can play with this a little bit. Whatever it is that you choose, stay consistent. Okay, so there you go, f prime, f double prime, right? And then as customary, we take a screenshot. Okay, make sure you capture it to be a good window. All right, going back into here, we'll paste everything in. And now, just taking a quick look at this, this thing just looks a little bit better than it did before. If the text doesn't work, I can stretch this out a little bit, making this a little bit easier, more proportional to the rest of the page. Okay. And some other things I can do, well, I can move the text box up here to the far left corner. I can move the image to align with it. Okay, this is called Figure 2, and I would add a little bit more specificity to it. Figure 2, this is the graphs of f prime and f double prime. And notice here that my font is Arial. But the rest of the document, my font is in Times New Roman. So I like to keep this consistent. Let's get the size down to the same as the others. And then this f prime, and f double prime, I'm going to italicize each one of them so that it looks like mathematical notation, so that it kind of blends in well. It follows the same formatting as everything else. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Save and close. Okay, so I got this to look a little bit better. Maybe I move this up here so that it slices up to 2 paragraphs. And so now you can see, well, from what I had up here to what I have down here, it looks a little bit cleaner than what I had before. Now, what I had before also includes this key, right? There's the blue, the red, the green, and so on. And I want to capture that information in here as well without cluttering it up further. So rather than making a separate key, what I can do is add little text boxes. Again, we want this to be the same formatting as before. So this was f prime that I had this. So I put that little label there. I want to get the color to roughly match the same color as that of the graph. Move it up here so it's slightly more prominent, and then Control D on your keyboards lets you, oh, this was F. This was F prime, and again, changing the color so that it roughly matches, or it matches as close as possible. Okay, and we'll change the color on this as well. So this should be F double prime. We'll adjust that just a little bit. Okay, and we can hit save and close. And now you see a key here, and don't And don't worry that this looks kind of small when you go to print it out. I have a lot of things on my screen here, but when you go to print it out, this information down here will look a little bit more large, right? So yeah, that's not a big deal. That's not a major concern. But the main concern is layout. Compare what it had before. You got all these weird and funny indentations going on, and now you have everything captured in here. The one last thing that I would say is that this information about the actual equation itself, that is important, and the previous page here has it, and my updated version doesn't have it. One of the lacking features in Google's drawing is not letting you write mathematical notation inside of the drawing, but that's okay. That's not a big deal. That's why we have text. So we can say here, looking where we have figure 2 shows a function f, and right here is what I would say. I would change this and just insert a new equation into here. A function f of x equals negative x to the third plus 3x squared. Oops, sorry, that's minus 3x squared plus 2x plus 4. Its derivative, put this in parentheses, f prime, and since we have the equation feature, we might as well use it. Oops. Negative 3x squared minus 6x plus 2, and second derivative f double prime of x equals negative 6x minus 6. All right. So if you look at just the layout of this information here, when I go to read this second version of the text, all right, notice that I can look at the graph, the figure on its own, and see something about it, make some comments about it. Something I might add is the points of inflection, the x-intercepts, the maxima and the minima. If that's what the writing is talking about, I would add some more of that information in here. But if the figure by itself is helpful, I can study it, and then if I read the text, that illuminates it more, and then it's even better if I can read the text and reference back to here. I get a better understanding of all of the concepts. Okay, and I think in the first version the same thing is being done, but the layout, the way the presentation is a little bit clunky. This way it just looks a lot cleaner, and the professionalism when we're writing matters. We're writing to help ourselves understand, to help others understand, and to craft a document that illuminates the concept, that illuminates the truth. And the way that you illuminate something, a big part of illuminating and showing something is to demonstrate it in a way that is professional and beautiful. So there you, and these little details, these little tips and tricks here will help you to get those details right. As always, thank you for watching. Keep working hard and have a wonderful day.